Good afternoon, everyone. I'm TJ, and welcome to TJ's Take. TJ's Take is a video podcast basically explaining topics through me, my life, and my experiences in my life. We're going to start out with the topic of me. Growing up, and I'm just going to tell you a little backstory about myself. I grew up in a little small town in Iowa, southeast Iowa, and it's not very big. I would say at the most maybe, I don't know, 10,000 people, something like that. Went to a small grade school, and what made me different than everyone else is I grew up with a disease called cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy can affect people in different ways, but it affected me in a minor way, basically in my left leg. It makes me to where I cannot balance, so I have to use something for balance. Hence, this guy, this beauty beast right here. I use this thing for balance. And yeah, so in grade school, I love school. The only problem with grade school is at the beginning, kids would tease me and poke fun at me, or they just didn't understand. I realized later on in life, I think people that don't understand different or unique, they're kind of scared of it. So kids would tease me, and I remember going home a couple times depressed. I wouldn't say depressed, but maybe emotional, because kids were teasing me. And my mom sat me down and she said, TJ, just be you. Who cares what people think? So it took a while for that to set in, but eventually she was right. She's always been right. My mom is great. I just went back to school, and I didn't care what people thought, and I tried to make friends with the people that were nice to me, and that was that. I do remember, I've had probably 30 to 40 surgeries in my life, upwards of 35, maybe 40. And I remember a incident when I was in first grade. I had to have a surgery where doctors broke both my hips, cut both my hamstrings, and cut both my Achilles tendons. And yeah, you ask yourself, why did they mess with his right side? I asked myself that same question. My parents and I, we let them do what they wanted to do because we thought that they knew what they were doing. I mean, they're professionals, they've been through medical school. Supposedly they know what they're doing, right? So we let them do all that. I had to lay in bed for a total of probably 11, 12 weeks. And then I got bored laying in bed, and I wanted to go to school. So they let me go to school, but I had to be in this like banana cart looking wheelchair type thing, because I had a body cast on. But the cool part about that is kids were really accepting. They wanted to push me around. They wanted to just talk to me, conversate, help me with whatever. I mean, there were a few kids that were kind of standoffish, but mostly everyone was really accepting. So I thought that was really neat. In grade school, they established that I needed a helper, like an aide, and so I had one of those from the time I was like kindergarten or first grade. and then that continued through school. I was probably a little bit ornery for my age, and I don't know. Growing up, my parents raised me to where I was just like any other kid, like any other Joe on the block. Uh, they tried to tell me nothing was wrong with me. My mom would tell people, and my dad would tell people, if you fall down, get back up. If you need to open up a door, open it up. Um, a little backstory: when I used to go to my dad's softball games, I was like probably 5 or 6. My mom would just set me in the dirt and let me play with the other kids, and moms and dads would be just so disgusted that they would be like, "Oh, I can't believe you're doing that. I can't believe you're letting him just get all dirty and just do whatever." And my mom was like, "Man, you gotta let him be a kid." So that's what she did my whole life. And the funny part is when I was born with a disability, I was born in 1980, so they didn't know a lot about a lot of things. They just thought they did. Uh, they they told me I would never be a functioning member of society. I would never stand right. I would never walk right. I would never socialize right. I would never flirt with girls right. Just everything. And so I don't know. Maybe being born, I was born 4 months too early. That is why I have the disability. Oxygen was cut off to the right side of my brain for too long, so I only weighed like 2 pounds 5 ounces, 2 pounds 2 ounces, or something like that. So pretty lucky. And doctors, about me not being a functioning member of society, you are wrong. But so let's move on to, okay, grade school. I made a bunch of friends. I was a pretty shy little kid, happy little guy. Then we move on to junior high. In junior high, I had to ride a bus that people would probably call a short bus. Like a bus with a lift on the side, like a ramp. And for anyone that knows my personality, that didn't make me very happy. My personality is very strong-willed. I think I can do anything that anyone can do, maybe a little bit better than you can do it. It just may take me longer. But I had to ride this bus with other disabled little kids, and I was always the type that never wanted to draw too much attention to myself, because I already knew when I walked through a door, people are going to stare at me. So so I rode that bus to junior high. In junior high, I had a lot of fun. I sang in the chorus. Still had an aide to help me out from class to class. We would leave like 5 minutes early. At this point in my life, I was kind of getting tired of the aide, just because I was getting older, and like I said, I pictured myself as everyone else does. I wanted to be as normal as possible. So I was probably a pain in the butt for most of them aides, and for that I'm sorry. But I don't know where I get the orneriness. But so finally, junior high went well. I made a lot of friends and talked to people that I wouldn't categorize myself in a certain group. I would talk to everybody, every type of person. I just wanted to make friends with everybody. I wanted to try to be nice to everybody. So we fast forward to high school. High school, high school was fun. I didn't have to ride the bus anymore. I actually got kicked off the bus for fighting. Actually, I got got mad at someone and hit someone or something like that, and I got kicked off the bus. But it was only a matter of time. I didn't like being on the bus. No offense to anyone that ever rode the bus. I just didn't like it. I wanted to be just like everyone else. Whether I push something for balance, whether I can't walk the same as everyone else, I wanted to be as normal as you can be. So my sister would give me a ride to school, and those are some of the most cherished memories I'll ever have. She likes a whole bunch of different kinds of music. She'd give me a ride to school, and then I got to the age like 15 to where I took a summer driver's ed class. I failed that, or let's say I didn't fail it, but I when I passed, they wrote in the corner of it, have to pass a test, the DOT, a driving test, in order to get your license. So I went in there. I thought, okay, this is gonna be a cakewalk. Went in there. I failed the test, and get you not, people, I failed the test 42 times. They gave me a restricted license at the age of 16. They passed me and they gave me a restricted license though once. They said I wasn't good enough to drive, so I had to have a restricted license. 25 miles. A 25-mile restricted license. That means I couldn't even drive to the next town if I got pulled over, or I couldn't drive like 2 towns away. If I got pulled over, they'd yank my license. I still drove all over the place. Rebel me. I took that test 42 times, got that restricted license. They told me when I was 18 I could come back, take the driver's test again, and if I passed everything, the eye test, the written test, and the driving test, I could have a normal license. I'm 18 years old, people, with a restricted license, senior in high school, cool trucks, and I failed. They failed me. So we asked to see someone with a higher authority than the DOT, like someone higher on the, I don't know if you'd call it pay grade or if you'd call it status bar, but some guy walks in this day that I'm supposed to do this test. I actually borrowed my buddy Corey's truck, and it was just pouring down rain. I borrowed my buddy Corey's truck because I think I crashed my truck or wrecked it or something, and we took this driving test. I passed the eye test, passed the written test, and it poured down rain. It started pouring down rain. The guy said, if you want me to come back in a couple months, I'll give you the test again. I said, no, let's do it, man. Well, if anyone's ever took a test with the DOT or a driving test with anyone of a higher official, it's pretty nerve-wracking. They sit there with a little clipboard and they write things down. They don't really talk to you. So we were taking this test, and I was driving, and I got real nervous, and this guy looked at me. He said, why aren't you talking? I said, because you're just going to sit there like they have 42 times before, write things down, probably tell me I fail. I'm just kind of nervous, man. You're sitting there with a clipboard, and I told him exactly what I just told you guys. And he threw the clipboard out the window. He said, just drive, man. That's all I want you to do. So I drove all around our town and out past the lake by our town, and he said, stop the car. I stopped the car, or stopped the truck, and he said, well, in my opinion, you drive really good. Well, why do you think you keep failing? I said, in my opinion, the reason why I keep failing is because my foot turns in when like I grew up dragging my foot. until I had a bunch of surgeries to correct it. Like I would just drag my foot, my left foot, and when I would drive, my left foot would turn in, and they thought I would get too tired. They even told me this like my first 5 tests or something. They thought I would get too tired and my foot would turn in and I'd go to hit the brake and I wouldn't be able to hit the brake and I would crash. So, in my opinion, that's what I told him why I was failing these tests. Well, he said, okay. We drove back to the DOT and he passed me. I got my license. Actually, the ladies that kept failing me, I don't know if they got fired or if I know he didn't let them talk that day, but I passed. And so I had some pretty cool trucks at home, or a truck, a 87 Ford Ranger that was lifted up in the air. It was pretty nice. So that was pretty fun. But I'll be honest with you, just like when I was a kid, I didn't mention my parents. They bought me like 4-wheelers, go-karts, anything that had a motor. I would race or ride and then race. And trust me, I crashed more than I stayed on them. You know, that's probably has to do with a lot of. I mean, that doesn't help with balance issues either. My injuries, wrecking stuff, it probably doesn't help. But the point I was getting at is I crashed my vehicles probably more than I crashed anything with a motor. You know, I think my middle name probably should be Crash, not James. But yeah, I was probably the worst driver on the planet back in the day because I wouldn't pay attention to stuff. You know, I just didn't care. So finally, you know, you just get the hang of things. So yeah, I wasn't that great of a driver, but I bet I could be a driver's ed teacher. But anyway, I started driving to school. I mean, I was driving to school at 16. In high school, I wrestled for the wrestling team. My junior year, they let me wrestle in one JV tournament. I tried to bench press a kid and failed drastically. Well, I bench pressed him, but then he chopped my arms and pinned me, and I didn't know what I was doing, so I lost. But I I loved it. You know, it was a thing where in junior high, I forgot to tell you, all I ever got to do was like be a basketball and a football manager, which was great. I mean, I've always told people I could be a better coach than I could be a athlete, just because when you have to sit there and watch and that's all you can do, you analyze things very well. But high school, you know, I would go and watch my sister play volleyball and watch how my parents would cheer on my sister. And that's way different than like cheering on somebody at like a choir concert. So I wanted to be part of the team. I knew I was strong, great upper body. So I went out. Coaches, they didn't know how to teach me anything. I think they wanted to teach me stuff like as an able-bodied person, like somebody that could, excuse me, stand up and do things regularly, like I had 2 good sets of legs or something. So they'd teach me takedowns like that. And honestly, they should have taught me takedowns like on the ground, like on your knees. And so they didn't teach me much. And actually, as a junior, they tried to make me quit a bunch, like made me wrestle people that weighed more than me. And just, I think they thought I would get injured and they thought it was like a, I don't know, just I was just the only one that ever did it that was disabled. So they're like, we don't know how to handle this, so I think you should quit. Well, I remember walking in on my a conversation that my mother was having with the coach in my dining room, and I don't think she knew that I walked in there, but I heard her say. Apparently, she was talking to him, and he was trying to get me to quit. And she said, "The more and more you try to make my son quit something, the more and more he's going to shove it back in your face and tell you he can do it. You know, he's the most strong-willed person I've ever met, and he can do it. And the more and more you tell him he can't, the more and more he's going to tell you and show you he can." So I stuck it out my junior year. My senior year, I wrestled varsity because we had a new coach, and he was really nice. And he took me aside and he said, "How can I help this team?" I said, "My only opinion for you to help this team is pay attention to the little man, the guys that don't have the name, the non-popular, the non-status quo people, the people that you don't know. Pay attention to them. You got some studs on this team. I mean, people that you wouldn't even recognize because this guy's supposed to start because he has started for years." Well, he said, "You start Monday on varsity." I said, "Man, I wasn't talking about me. I was talking about other people." But okay. So I started varsity and I wrestled this kid that ended up getting second or third at state. I didn't last very long. I think it lasted the whole first period, but at the end of the first period, I got pinned. But the greatest thing was my mom was on the sidelines cheering, "Go get him! Go get him! Kick his butt! Kick his butt!" And she did not say butt, people, but I'll keep it PG for you. But yeah, she was really supportive, screaming her butt off. It was pretty fun. Um, and I mean, the cool thing about wrestling was as my senior year progressed, guys started to teach me, like wrestlers started to like get down and teach me moves and like show me different moves like headlocks and pinning combinations and takedowns. My takedown was actually pretty quick. Um, they would do that because I think they seen that I was getting frustrated and half the practices all I would do is push-ups. So they would help me out, and I wrestled a bunch of varsity matches my senior year, scored a bunch of points, a couple points within winning. And I remember this one varsity match. I got diagnosed with mono, and I was gonna have to quit the team. But I was wrestling in a tournament, and I would bench press this kid, and I was coughing up stuff, and I was about ready to just give up and let the guy pin me. And I remember a voice coming from over top of me saying, "Macrats don't give up. Come on." It was my dad. I brizzed and I looked behind me and it was my dad going like this, and I just flipped the guy over. I instantly just flipped the guy over instantly, just on a turn of a dime. Flipped him over. I ended up losing that match by 1 point, but that was cool. That was a memory I'll never forget. And yeah, so wrestling was fun. Uh, then I graduated high school with a couple double letters. I went to Indian Hills Community College a few times actually. Uh, when I graduated high school, my parents moved to Indianapolis, Indiana, and they gave me a choice: either you can go with us or you can move in with some buddies. I decided to move in with some buddies. Well, when I moved in with those buddies, I became a lot more social. Tried to talk to more people through parties, stuff like that. Parties I'll never forget either. Um, and I just kind of hung out with my friends, and I started going to Indian Hills Community College. Didn't do very good right away just because I was focused on just hanging out with buddies and being friends with people. Well, I ended up graduating from Indian Hills Community College with a minor in psychology. Probably went there a little longer than I should have, but graduated from there. Lived with buddies all through the years, and then when I was about 22, 23, maybe even 24 years old, I don't know, I wasn't at the right state of mind in my head, and I decided, hey, I want to fix my leg. I want to fix my foot from dragging all the time. So I went into the University of Iowa hospital, and I said, hey, whatever it takes for you guys to fix my foot and help me walk kind of normal, let's do it. I was like, even if you got to cut my leg off. They're like, we've never heard of a 23, 24-year-old kid saying, cut my leg off if you have to. So they basically did the same surgery they did a couple times when I was younger, and broke my hips, cut my hamstrings, and cut my Achilles tendons. They told me I would lay in bed a little bit longer, probably 16 months or something, because I was older and my body wouldn't heal as fast. They said there was probably only a 50 to 60% chance I'd even make it through the surgery because it was so many surgeries at one time. It was like 8 or 9 surgeries at one time. So I did it. I scheduled it a couple days before Christmas. My dad came and drove me all the way to Indianapolis in the back of a car. I was an outpatient the very next day. So imagine that, having broken hips, cut hamstrings, and cut Achilles tendons, and riding 7 hours in the back of an SUV. Every bump you hit, you went into shock. But it did fix my foot. I still my foot still turns in just a hair. That's because my my adductors, which are the muscles on the inside of your legs, they're really tight, and when I walk, I call that leg my lazy leg or my lazy foot. I sit there and talk to it. I'm like, come on, buddy, come on, work with me today. It still turns in a hair, not very much, not even hardly noticeable, but yeah, it worked. So I only laid in bed for 10 months. I got sick of laying in bed, got up on my feet, started walking around, went back to my hometown, and moved in with a buddy for like 6 months. And then I moved out into my own apartment, and hung out for a few years. Was the manager of a tanning salon in Oskaloosa. I worked at some cell phone places. A manager of a tanning salon. I love that job. It was great, and everyone who ever worked there, I bet they also thought it was great. Had a bunch of memories there, and then that place closed in like 2006, 2007, and I was gonna buy that place. I got a loan. I got a place to put the business, had everything arranged, and then I actually got a call one day saying that somebody was pregnant, and I was gonna have a little girl. So in my mind, my priority was different. I wanted to be a dad. So anyway, fast forward, I moved to Norman, Oklahoma. My daughter is great. She is awesome. She is unique, and she is she is definitely her own person. I love her to death. But she is now 8, and I've lived here for a while, and I wouldn't change anything for the world. I am actually my own business owner. I own a business called Abnormal Outlook. I buy and sell electronics. I fix electronics, and I'm actually an internet coach. If somebody breaks something or buys something they don't know how to use it, I'm your guy. I'll come in and teach you how to use it, even if you don't know how to open your email. There's a lot of older generation that doesn't even know how to open an email. I'll come in. You'll pay me a flat rate, and I'll teach you how to use it. And even if you have questions, I give you my phone number. You can call me. I'll walk you through step by step how to do it. So, again, for anyone who is told at a young age you cannot do something, you can do it. Trust me, you can do it. I wasn't even supposed to be a functioning member of society, and I'm a business owner and a dad. So, you can do it if I can do it. And trust me, these video podcasts, they're not just about me. I mean, it's a perspective of my life experiences, but I'm not trying to say, hey, I know what you've been through. I catch where you're coming from, because I'm not you. I don't know what you've been through, and I don't know how you handle things. I'm just telling you from my perspective, and if you can learn from that, then good for you. If I can make anyone smile today or any day, or just help one person out, that's all I care about. Well, this is TJ's Take, and I'll catch you next time.